name's Kyle Seraphin.
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Thursday. It's September the 12th, and we're rolling live on all the places you'd expect. A little bit of a different kickoff today. If you watch the video podcast instead of listening to us on audio, you caught a little bit from the reboot of Star Trek and the famous Kobayashi Maru standard. It was a simulation set up as a no-win, a lose-lose. It was supposed to teach some sort of lessons to Starfleet. What it taught our hero, Captain Kirk, who's kind of like a quintessential American hero, is that when the rules are stacked against you, don't play by those rules. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the debate, since we did a kind of a breather yesterday and talked about the Roman Empire with Jeremy Ryan Slate. If you did not listen to our interview, I encourage you to do it. It's a quick hour. I think it'll go faster than you think. And as some of you have let me know, you didn't have high expectations, but you walked away learning something. That's what we're all about here. Low expectations and exceeding the bar. No, I'm just kidding. That's what Kamala Harris does in debates. So we are going to talk about the debate after having a little bit of a breather, and I'm going to give you the news flash up front. I'm going to hurt your feelings right now. Donald Trump lost that debate, but my point is, who cares? It was a Kobayashi Maru situation. I think he blew it. I think he had opportunities to do something that he didn't do. I'm going to tell you what those things are. We'll cover it again a little bit tomorrow with Steve Friend. Before we get rolling, the reason why we're able to do the interviews that we do when we do them, without being much interruption for commercials, is because we have great folks like Catholic Vote who back up our program and support us and allow us to do independent, I don't know what this is called, podcasting, independent sources of information, non-slanted, and also sometimes we just don't run ads because we don't want to. So CatholicVote.org is the website if you guys want to go support them. When I say support them, I mean support yourself with knowledge and information. Go and get The Loop. You can also follow them on social media. That's actually a good one as well. Catholic Vote. It's at Catholic Vote. Doesn't matter where you go do it, especially if you're on YouTube. Faith, family, and freedom are the governing principles that my friends over there, we all share that same sort of thing. They also believe in firearm rights. They believe that transgender people probably are mentally ill. You know, the things that most Americans believed for all of America until the last couple years. Go ahead and check them out. And then lastly, the other reason why we're able to stay independent and do the things we do is because of our friends over at Locals. And that may be you. And if it's not, you can go over to KyleSeraphin.com. KyleSeraphin.com. You can sign up as a subscriber and you'll have access to the call-in show, which is going on tonight, not last night, like I said yesterday. My wife pointed out to me, are you doing your show tonight? I said, no, I'm not. I blew it. I messed up. We're doing the call-in show tonight. If you guys want to be a subscriber, you can be a monthly subscriber, you can be an annual subscriber, take your pick, or you can be a free member and also interact with the community. Check it out, KyleSeraphin.com. And I saw some of you over there earlier. I'm not trying to dissuade you from being on Rumble, by the way, or X, or wherever you watch us. What I'm just doing is running a backup stream there, just in case. Because some of you will find out every once in a while, Rumble has some issues. All right, let's get into what's going on. I got a chance to play you guys something fun, the Kobayashi Maru, to get us kicked off with sort of a mindset. A lot of people are coping. I know they're coping because they've decided to go after Kamala Harris's earrings. This is not a winning attack. This is not the way that you show that your guy was the winner. When you're talking about maybe she had an earbud that was giving her the answers. I just put something on the screen for you. I will address it in a moment. Let me talk about listening through earbuds and speaking extemporaneously. It's very, very difficult to do if you're not trained. Talk to your friends who are police officers. Talk to your friends who are radio controllers in the military. Doesn't matter what sort of branch. If you're monitoring 1 or 2 nets in your ears and then also human beings and trying to do a relay, it's tough. I used to run with one radio bud in my ear, which was my comms for my team. I had another earbud that was running the police scanner, so I knew what was going on around me, and then try to drive and speak on my own radio and try to give information. It's a trained skill. It takes weeks to master, minimum, for people that are high IQ, and I don't think that Kamala Harris is that person. It takes sometimes years for people to get used to it. That's why you'll see sometimes when cops have a lot of traffic going on coming from dispatch, they'll pop their earbud out and they will be without comms because they need to focus on the person and they need to either console or calm or de-escalate or whatever. It's not an easy skill to pick up. So the idea that you would walk into a debate in a room with exactly 4 people, even though, and 2 of them are on your side, by the way, this is not a hostile environment for Kamala Harris. Saying that she supposedly needs to have an earbud to be able to get the answers is absurd. The other thing that the MAGA crowd, and I've watched you all, I've seen you, that's why I have a headache this morning. I woke up because I was on True Social last night. This sort of bizarre coping situation where people are like, oh, it was 3-on-1 and she had the questions already. This is how you get yourself set up to find out that this is false, because what they can say is, no, she didn't have the questions. What she had were the answers. How do I know that? Because she rehearsed all those answers and she just did sound bites. They weren't very convincing to me. They weren't very convincing to anybody. That's why the polls didn't move. But it was better than what Donald Trump went in and did, which is that he kind of just meandered and he was on the defensive. He allowed her to push the game. It was awkward as all get out to watch. I was there. I saw it. Steve Friend and I just wanted it to end. When Kamala Harris starts speaking, I get glassy-eyed. But when Donald Trump says things that I've already heard him say and he doesn't do it in a particularly artful or convincing way, I also get glassy-eyed. That's why this debate mattered probably not at all. That being said, it was obviously unfair. It was a 3-on-1 that was apparent to those of us who were watching it in real time. It's been the coverage. But when you're trying to say, well, it was 3-on-1, it was unfair, what you're saying is that he didn't perform. And Donald Trump knew he was walking into a lose-lose situation, hence the Kobayashi Maru reference. Let me debunk the earbuds for you real quick, because this is super easy stuff. I don't think she has the skill to do it. These are what are called the Tiffany & Co., famous jewelry company that's famous for mostly sterling silver stuff. They have something that's called the Hardware Collection. And the Hardware Collection has this thing called the double pearl hinged earring. This one is in sterling silver. They used to make it in gold as well. They're $800 at this point, and you can still buy them on the website. I'm showing you a picture, and then here is Kamala Harris. Now I'm putting it on the screen. These are the gold edition that they used to have. You can actually see the Tiffany & Co. in the back. You can see the rating for whatever sort of gold they had. It's the thing that she's been wearing. She's worn them a bunch. She didn't need an earbud to be able to go out there and just recite lines, which is what I believe she did. So I want to knock that down right now because it takes away from what was going on. People reached out to this earbud company. There's this whole thing. It becomes a conspiracy. What that does is it takes the focus off what was actually done and what should have been done, which is that Donald Trump should have gone out there and campaigned on his record. Now, this wasn't a debate because they didn't talk about issues. Every time they came up, Donald Trump mentioned his issues and Kamala Harris said, I have a plan. She's like Martin Luther King Jr. who had a dream. I heard it at the time. It was like, I have a plan to do this. I have a plan to do that. I have a plan. It's like, well, your plans dropped 18 hours ago. Can you give us a little insight about your plan? No, you don't actually know what your plan is. Most likely. It's most likely that she had zero idea of what these plans are, and they're bad plans. The only thing Donald Trump needed to do to be completely victorious, this is the Kobayashi Maru scenario, you reprogram the game. They set up for a 90-minute debate with muted mics, which we saw were not muted. They actually weren't muted. Kamala Harris was able to speak over him at one point. Donald Trump did get a punch back in there. That was pretty good. One of them was, he said, I'm speaking, or he said, I'm talking right now. Doesn't that sound familiar? And she went and put her hand in her chin like, oh my God. Yeah, so those were a couple of good little sound bites. It wasn't without like some counter punches. They just weren't effective. But at the end of the day, it didn't move the needle because what she said was it was nonsensical, ginned up political speak with zero specifics. And the last part of it is, which is the most important, he should have led with what he closed with, and he should have walked out the door. This is my contention. A winner would have been Donald Trump walks in, takes the first question and says, thanks so much for that question. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure your audience wants to know, but here's a question I have for your audience. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? If so, you should vote for my opponent. And if you are not better off than you were 4 years ago, then I am the alternative. I want you to consider how things were before the pandemic in December of 2019. That was sort of the high point of doing the Trump economy. If that's what you want to go back to, that's what I'm offering. And you've already seen what my plan looks like because I've already been president. And you've already seen what I've had to say because I've been doing this for the last couple years. But if you think that the Biden-Harris administration should continue for another 4 years, then you should pick my opponent. And if you don't, if you got problems, if it's difficult for you to afford a house, if your bacon is too expensive in the grocery store, if you're looking at the price of eggs, if you've seen things that have disappeared from your store shelves and don't return, if you have a hard time filling up at the gas pump, and if you're having a difficult time making ends meet, even though you might even be making more dollars because your dollar has been inflated, if that is your experience of America, then you should try to make America great again and vote for me. That's all he had to say. And then he could have turned and walked out and dropped the damn mic. Imagine if he booked 90 minutes as an interviewee, as a guy who's going to be in this fake debate to get attacked. And all he did was go, I'm going to give you 90 seconds because that's all I have to say, and let her debate herself. And then if he wanted to do a real punch on the way out, he could have said, listen, she just dropped her platform 18 hours ago. I've been putting this thing out for 8 years. You guys probably have a lot to talk about. I hope you guys will give the time to my opponent, Kamala Harris, so she could explain what she's doing and what she's offering and why she hasn't done it already. Boop, out the door. Kobayashi Maru. We did a whole episode about this. When the rules are stacked against you and the rules in the media are stacked against Trump, it's very easy to switch it up as long as you don't know and you have smart people around you. By the way, that idea was something Steve Friend and I came up with just talking. It didn't take very long. Why does he not have people around him that are willing to say the same things that we said about the RNC? Does Donald Trump need to go to the RNC to be worshipped by sycophants and like GOP types and have weirdos up on the stage? No, he should have left and gone to the funeral for a man who took a bullet at the same rally that he was meant to be killed. That is the way that you win things. You act like a non-politician. You operate outside of the box. Unfortunately, we keep seeing Donald Trump operate inside the box because he's surrounded by establishment types. The people in his campaign are classic DC types. The people that are surrounding him are always and everywhere trying to say government is bad unless we're in charge of it, not government is bad and we want less of it, which is what those of us who are sitting on the outside and yelling in want to say. This is the reason why I keep telling you people, I'm about no one for speaker. I'm about shut down the government. I don't care. And neither should you, because the government doesn't do very much for you. You think it does right up until it shuts down and you realize that it doesn't. And I don't think they're going to let this guy win either way. I'll go on record saying that. I will be happily shocked if Donald Trump gets the number of votes counted in his favor and actually is allowed to step into the White House. That'd be great. Because he doesn't hate guns the way the other lady does. And he doesn't hate babies the way the other lady does. And he's actually impressionable because he's a populist. And when his base goes one way, he tends to go with us. So that's great. I'm fine with that. But I don't see that coming. You guys are seeing Garrett O'Boyle sitting in the chat right now. He sent this over to the Suspendables team in our little kind of behind the scenes chat. This is from the United States Secret Service. I commented on this last night. The Secret Service, because of the Biden administration, has just declared that January 20th, 2025, whenever that inauguration is going to be referred to as a national special security event. Okay? There it is. Secret Service announcement. This is the thing that I've been telling you guys should have been done on January 6th of 2021. It should have been an NSSE. I know that because I participated in probably a dozen NSSEs, and they called it Super Bowl level security events. No, it's a standard thing. They do it all the time. They do it for State of the Unions. They do it for the 4th of July parade. They do it for any large gathering of people that are going to go into the district of Washington, D.C. It's a normal thing to do. It's quite easy. They get everybody on spin up, and the federal government pays for all the local overtime, and everybody has a great time. Not everybody. I got cold on a lot of these things because you stand out there and you're just nothing but a hoodie and body armor, your gun and a radio, and you're walking around looking for trouble, making sure that bad people do not interrupt the average citizen's ability to protest or celebrate as they choose, which is what we're supposed to be able to do. That First Amendment, the ability to assemble and to speak. All right? They've named it for this coming year, but they didn't in 2021. And that has always been a stark distinction. It shows me a little bit of how they understand that there are going to be some real problems. And they're going to want everybody on standby. All right. We're going to get into some of the coverage because there's a lot of coverage. This is the Independent, which is a leftist organization out of the UK, talking about the earbuds. And basically, although it was most likely Tiffany earrings, there's this company that makes these like earbuds that look sort of similar, and they have like some sort of a transmission capability, or they're a Bluetooth item. And they were more than happy to take the credibility. Why? Because they're a tiny company no one's ever heard of, and someone scoured the internet and found it, turned it into this bullshit conspiracy, and it is BS. And then they got a little bit of bump out of it. So now they're probably all sold out across the world. So be it. Let's talk about some of these things. In the debate, Trump embraced false claims from the deep corners of the internet far right. Again, the longer you stay with these people punching at you, the more likely you are to get sullied by their punching. Donald Trump said things that are not from the far right corners of the internet. He said things that exist on regular social media across the board if you are a conservative. Lowercase c. They're everywhere. But that doesn't stop NBC News from reporting it. Of course, they have a picture of him looking like he's yelling. This is a black and white that makes him look sort of extreme. They're into that. He disappointed some allies on how he often ventured into the obscure conspiracy theories. They were not obscure. The problem with the way that Donald Trump says things is he, one, is older than he's ever been before, and he's starting to show it a little bit, whether you like it or not. It's true. He's not as quick as he was 10 years ago. I'm sure he's exhausted from the things that he's been attacked on. So have empathy for it. I'm just telling you, it's not the look you want. But talking about the cats and the ducks and this kind of thing, it didn't help him. The problem is not because the things he said are untrue. There's actually some pretty good reporting that's coming out right now. Taylor Hansen is with Tenet Media, or formerly with Tenet Media. He's gone to Springfield. You're finding people coming out of the woodwork saying, yeah, of course, I've seen people grab ducks and rip them out of a public park. I've heard of my neighbors losing their cats and or dogs. We had Bill Shipley talking about how he's had immigrants from third world nations come to this country and talk about when they were being trafficked as sexual slaves in the United States, that they ate dogs and cats. Not necessarily from Haiti, but there are people that do this in this country when they're desperate. And other cultures do not have the same value for pets that we do. So that's objectively true. The problem is Donald Trump basically assumes that everybody else is consuming the same things that probably you and I are. That's his major problem. It really is. We have to remember that the people on the political left that are hearing NBC News and CBS News and CNN and MSNBC propaganda, when they're hearing this stuff, they're not privy to the things that you and I are catching either in our social media feed or even in the mainstream right, and certainly not from the independent right. They don't have it. So this is the first time they've ever heard of it. This is the biggest point. When you assume facts that somebody else has never heard before, you sound like the crazy person, even when you're sane, even when you're introducing actual information that may or may not be true. Like if it's true, it's not crazy, but if you don't give people a warm up to it and you're like, yeah, people are eating dogs and cats, Haitians, then you go like, oh my God, are they? Like, what kind of crazy man is he? And then you go out there and you see that there's people in Springfield going, oh yeah, we have this problem. And by the way, my neighbor lost this, or we have this video of some lady who is not in Springfield, who was apparently an American drug addict, who was eating a cat. And you go, okay, there's some credibility to what it is. He may have got some of the facts wrong. The problem is he didn't fully explain it because it's a crap format. The debate, it's a crap format. He also talked about things that they really didn't like, which was the concept of abortion up until the point of birth. We're going to cover that today because it's something I'm mostly interested in. So just be aware of that. He also talked about Kamala Harris on the radical transgender thing. And then he talked about gun control. Look, all of the issues Donald Trump wins on for a guy like me. I'm an independent. I'm not registered with a party. And I'm the person that you have to win. I'm the guy that says, I'm willing to hear both sides. I lean towards the conservative side always because those are the values that I have. Give me a reason. You're not trying to get loony lefties to change their mind and say Donald Trump is great. I just don't think it's going to happen. Those people have been indoctrinated. There's plenty of videos of going out and you ask them, they're like, yeah, I wish you would have caught a bullet. These people are unhinged. They're programmed and they've been getting programming for a decade. So you're not going to win them over. What you want to win are the people in the middle, which is a very, very small sliver of people. And you want to get to people on the right that are otherwise not that excited to say, yes, you're right. This lady's too extreme, or that guy's my guy. Take your pick. Both are a win. I don't think he did that. He didn't do that during this debate. And that's the sad part of it, because it was an opportunity that was basically missed. Okay? When you miss the opportunity, you should just call balls and strikes. That's what we're trying to do here. This is how the left covered it. God, they're so excited. This is coming from Michael Cohen, who's like a columnist and a fellow and a professional useless person, like an academic that doesn't work in academia. The Harris debate victory could be unlike any other. Never before in American presidential politics has there been a debate as one-sided as what we saw today. Actually, there was. And we saw it a couple weeks ago. It was Donald Trump thrashing Joe Biden, who was their candidate all the way up until the point, and the one that, by the way, Kamala Harris endorsed and said was great, right up until the point when he died on the doorstep. I made the analogy about my dog at some point during that sort of aftermath of the first debate we saw, where my dog was very old. She was 15 plus years old, and she was a good-sized dog, so that's an old dog. And every day when I'd go out, I'd see her laying on the ground, and I thought, oh, man, is she dead? And then she would stand up, and you'd be like, oh, she's alive, for not very much longer. And she ended up passing. That was Joe Biden, right? The fact that he even came out of that and was able to speak for a couple of days. People got really, really, really excited. This is nonsense. It gave the political left more talking points for their loonies. Again, it doesn't move the needle for people in the middle. Nobody in the middle was like, oh my God, Kamala Harris has it. Earpiece or otherwise. So don't get distracted by this. The key is that there was an opportunity to walk away from this, and he should have done it the right way. I think he blew it. Again, Kobayashi Maru. I want to show you the AI synthesis of what that looked like. It says the Kobayashi Maru, this is coming from like a Google search, so just bear with me. It's a training exercise in the Star Trek franchise that tests the decision-making abilities of the Starfleet Academy cadets. It still has value, I think, for all people. It's supposedly programmed as a no-win, right? It was depicted in the 1982 film Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, great film, by the way, featured in many of the other Star Trek media. The exercise is supposed to teach the value of resilience, the importance of making difficult decisions, and the need to accept that not all problems have a clear solution. That is true. That's what it was designed to do. It was designed to make you experience loss, tasking versus scoring, how to deal with failure, blah, 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 blah. It also taught Captain Kirk that one really important lesson, that when the rules are rigged against you, don't play by those rules. There is no reason to submit to a game that has certain failure. I'm just saying. It'd be nice if we saw a guy who keeps getting hawked as not a politician and an outside-the-box thinker and a non-Washingtonian to do non-Washingtonian things. Nobody in D.C. would ever think to walk off a debate stage. Here's what would have happened, just so I can tell you the outcome, what it would have looked like. The loony left would have been loony. They would have said he walked away and he's a coward. They said that anyway. The people in the middle would have been absolutely intrigued. They would have been like, man, this guy, he said something very simple. It's a simple soundbite that could be played over and over again for weeks. And he's right. It was better when Biden wasn't in office, when Kamala Harris wasn't in the Naval Observatory. And the people on the right would have loved it. You would have loved it. Admit to yourself that you would have been like, that's the most base thing you can do. You walked into ABC. They've been crapping on you for the last 10 years. They've been talking about how awful you are and what a bad person you are. You went in there, you booked a 90-minute interview, and you left them high and dry for them to try to fill up 90 minutes of open air time on a live broadcast. And all the pundits on the right would have cut away. It would have been absolute rock star status. Dean just said it in the chat. Instant rock star status. Because you're playing the game the way we want to see it played. Shut it down. Walk away. Don't participate in the evil. Don't give them the satisfaction. That's what it would have been like. All right, some of the claims that were put out by Trump were accurate. Again, I'm telling you, his facts were right. His delivery was bad. And that's the problem, because the people on the left haven't heard it. And there's been cover. This is yet another reason not to participate. You're seeing coverage here. This is Stephen Collinson, who's CNN's sort of like go-to guy. He's over and over, like all of these people, they're gleeful about this. Kamala was so amazing. She had more energy at every turn. Yeah, she did. She said more and more of the same garbage. She started off with a lie. She started calling things the Donald Trump sales tax. She put him on the defensive, and he bit into it. And that's a bummer. He doesn't need to. He should be smarter than that. He's from New York. He's used to like verbal sparring. He just wasn't on his game. And maybe that was bad prep. And maybe it was because he shouldn't have been there that long. There is one little funny thing, and I'm going to go into some of the claims, the specific things about transgenderism and about abortion that are nuts, especially the kind of claim that you could find on the internet very easily by just looking for it, which I did. And I'm going to give you guys some clips because these are truly important. His claim about abortion was spot on. But here's the problem with it. He engaged in a debate about abortion where his position is not that strong. The people on the right are pro-life. The people on the left are pro-death. So where do you stand if you're a politician? You don't argue about abortion at all. Here's the way that should have turned. This is my take on it. Again, you don't have to agree with me, but this is my take. You ask me a question about abortion, I'm going to turn it into the economy. Immediately. Why? Because everything goes back to the economy because people are voting based on the economy, based on all the polling. That's the number one thing. Donald Trump wins on the economy. So you campaign where you're strong. If they say, Donald Trump, we heard that you were going to vote for the abortion amendment in Florida, but then you said you weren't, and you have flip-flopped on your position, and we don't really like this, and we think abortion is really great. He says, look, I did something. I put in Supreme Court justices that uphold the Constitution. And based on their judgment, they determined that this belongs in the states. Everybody wanted it there, and I put the people there. They made the good decision. Roe v. Wade was bad law as far as case law, and they made a good decision. But let me tell you what's more important. We're talking about abortion because the economy is terrible, and women can't afford to have babies. Do you know what people do when they feel great and prosperous and healthy, and the world is looking good? They want to have children to share it with, and we don't live in that America right now. So why don't we work on the economy, which this lady has failed on and her boss has failed on, and they have made it unaffordable so women have to talk about killing their babies rather than the simple fact that it's so good that they want to bring it and share that America with the next generation. He could have turned it so easily. I did this on the top of my head while we were talking. It's such an easy flip. All you need to do is be aware that you don't have to answer their questions. That's the number one rule of politics. You can ask any question you like, and I'm going to answer any question that I want. And for those of you who listened to what my dad had to say when I brought him on, because he used to watch people and interview guys like Ronald Reagan, and he tells a story. It's one of those Seraphin lore stories now in our family where he asked Ronald Reagan the same question 3 times and got 3 independent answers. Why? Because Ronald Reagan had talking points too. He was good at it. He was an actor. Kamala Harris is also an actor. She's just not a good actor. So she gave out whatever her answers were going to be regardless. And she didn't need the questions because she had the answers she was going to deliver. And that's what she did. And they were crap, people. They were not good answers. They were just more organized and better. And they weren't bogged down and they weren't defensive. She talked about plans and looking forward, and all of them sound like junk. She kept talking about turning the page. She sounded like a damn communist, if you know anything about Mao. But unfortunately, Donald Trump said she's a Marxist, she's a communist, just like her dad. What he didn't say is listen to the language she used. They want to do the great leap forward. Oh, wait, they want to call it the new look forward. It's the same verbiage. They use communist language. They want to be unburdened by what has been. It's an homage to Karl Marx. It's clear the way she speaks. These would have been wins. But why even get into a cerebral debate with someone who's not cerebral and an American population that doesn't have an attention span? They're TikTokers. Give them 90 seconds and walk the hell out. That's all. That's what I want to say about it. Let me play you Ralph Northam, because one of the biggest pieces of contention was whether or not Donald Trump's position on abortion was accurate. When he was claiming that Kamala Harris believes in, and I would say the entire Democrat Party believes in, abortion up to the point of birth. And I think it does. Actually, before we do that, let me just say thanks to my buddies at Patriot Cooler who allow me to go on these rants, and they pay for our program to keep going. PatriotCoolers.com is the website. This is my 16-ounce. Don't buy this if you're going to travel with it in the car. Don't put this in your minivan if you want to put it in the cup holders. It will not fit. It will go flying forward. Luckily, the lids are fantastic, and they will stop a spill. But if you want to keep things hot or cold in a good tumbler that is made by a company that loves America, so much so that they put the stars and stripes on all their products, and they're named Patriot. PatriotCoolers.com is where you go. Promo code KYLE. They also support our vets. Conservatives pretty much share the same values, right? We like the military when it's doing the right thing. We want our military members to be protected and to be taken care of when they come home. These guys actually help retrofit houses, which is pretty darn cool. A percentage of profits always go back there. A percentage of them also support our show. PatriotCoolers.com. Check them out. Very easy to do. You guys will be glad you did. If you're in the market, don't go spend any money you don't need to on me. I'll just say it. All right, Ralph Northam. This is the coverage of the thing he said. I remember this because I lived in Virginia. But if this was not a story that hit you on the national sphere, and I know it hit Donald Trump. I know it hit Donald Trump because Donald Trump was around there when this happened. This was how Glenn Youngkin ended up pivoted. He talked about parents, and he talked about kids, and he talked about schooling. He made the debate about what it needed to be about, not about this, which is not necessarily a winner, even though Donald Trump was correct. These people do believe in abortion up until birth. I'm going to give you 2 pieces of evidence that's true. The problem is it didn't land in that audience. Here's Ralph Northam being quoted about make the baby comfortable after it's born. He calls it an infant, not a fetus, because it's been born, and let it die.
Virginia Governor Ralph Northam is facing backlash for supporting a state measure that would loosen restrictions on late-term abortions. Northam, a pediatric neurosurgeon, told WTOP, third trimester abortions are done in cases where there may be severe deformities. There may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. Among other things, the bill would end a state rule requiring at least 3 physicians confirm a third trimester abortion is necessary to prevent the woman's death or substantial and irremediable impairment of her mental or physical health. Northam said he does not want the government involved in these types of decisions and wants it instead to be made by the mothers and their providers. Several prominent Republican leaders have criticized the comments.
Yeah, of course they criticize the comments because they're horrific. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen right now is reporting from 2019. Who's president in 2019? Donald Trump. Who lives, at least most of the time, in Washington, D.C. at that time? Donald Trump. Where were these being covered? In Virginia. So this story was big right where I was, right where Donald Trump was, right in 2019. So he assumes information that is not obvious to people that didn't live in Virginia, that didn't live in D.C., that don't follow the politics and remember things that happened in 2019. Now, you guys know your neighbors, your friends, your family members, they don't remember things that happened like 2 years ago. They barely remember. They went out and got shots, and they don't even remember like running out and standing in line at Costco and them not having eggs and rationing out toilet paper. They've already forgotten that. How do I know? Because they're not preparing for it again. The Virginia governor faced backlash over those comments supporting late-term abortions. You heard a characterization of it. Now, the defense at the time was, because here's the AP running cover. Again, it ran cover then, and it runs cover now, and it continues to run cover. This is not even from the debate that you're seeing over here. This is an AP fact check that says what post is it? Oh, these are internet posts, of course. Internet posts distort former Virginia governor's comments on third trimester abortions. This article, this fact check article, is dated April 11th of 2024, which is this year. So they've been trying to cover for this for 5 years. The idea that Donald Trump would reference it, it's reasonable if you're a person that consumes lots of news. But if you only consume, this is a fact check, that's a throwaway story, basically trying to sweep it under the rug and saying, okay, look, this is a nothing. And we always said it was nothing. Oh, you know how I know it was nothing? Because AP fact check, which is garbage. The woman who does it, by the way, Melissa Golden, has some other really funny reporting that I've seen. So I'm just saying, I recognize that name as someone who said things that I know are false. But it's misrepresented because the claim is false because it's a hypothetical example. It's hypothetical that you could have a baby born and then let it die. We're talking about a man who swore, the Hippocratic Oath? That's a pediatric neurosurgeon. This is not like a pediatrician per se. This is a surgeon. This is someone who deals with the life and death, taking somebody, working on a child, theoretically, saving lives with really, really difficult congenital defects, neurological conditions, conjoined twins with fused skulls. That's what a pediatric neurosurgeon does. Do you know how specific and specialized that is? To think that it's fine to watch a baby die and say that out loud. This is why that governor he struggled in this case, because he's making things up that are insane. Now, lest anyone think that I am making up where this comes from, here is Kathy Tran. She was a delegate in the Virginia House presenting this bill. She's a Democrat. She's a pro-abortion person. She thinks that abortion should be up until the point of birth. She knows that's wrong. She knows that it's not palatable to Americans, and she doesn't want to talk about it. But here she is put on the spot. She's also an anti-gunner, by the way. She thinks assault weapon bans and people should have common sense. This is the crazy part of Virginia, which is right outside of D.C., which is what was chirping in Donald Trump's ear while he was the president. Because this news was national news, or at least it was regional news, for the entire 4 years that he was in the office. Okay? This is Kathy Tran standing and answering questions about the bill that they put out to the Virginia House of Delegates.
Delegate Tran.
Yes, sir.
How late in a pregnancy would your bill apply if a physician was simply willing to certify that that the continuation of the pregnancy would impair the mental health of the woman? How late are we talking about?
Well, so the way the suggestion that we've made in the bill is to say it's in the third trimester and at the, with the certification of the physician. So
how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
It's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester.
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
You get it? They know it's wrong. They know these positions are extreme and insane, and they don't want to say them out loud, but they can't lie about it because the text of the bill is obvious. And on top of that, it doesn't just say the physical health of the mother, it says the mental health of the mother. And she wants to go, well, and the physical. And he's like, I'm talking about the mental. It's your words. It's your bill. It is your law. Own it, you evil freaks. It's very specific. So the things that Donald Trump said were factually accurate, particularly in Virginia and in other places. I'm going to show you some other evidence. Late-term abortions are, in fact, not only okay, they are things that are performed. And they are absolutely disgusting, like viable human children that are killed, sacrificed, whatever you want to call it. They're executed in a medicinal fashion. And you're going to hear a little bit of how that's done. And you're going to hear that it's a virtue in a second here. Thank God for groups like Students for Life that are going out and proving in real time by making the phone calls. How many of you guys want to call up an abortion clinic? Not very many. How many of you want to go out and pray or protest in front of one? It's a really good way to get yourself locked up in jail, as my friend Mark Hout found out, and others have as well at the hands of the DOJ. So Donald Trump is not wrong, but he didn't win that because he didn't give it in an arts of a way, and he actually engaged in a discussion on their terms. You're talking about three people. And then, of course, there was the fact that she's friends with the president or whatever it is, the CEO over at ABC. The moderator and her shared the same sorority, different colleges, but they were in the same sorority. So they have this kinship. We're talking about something truly disgusting. But that's a Kobayashi Maru scenario if I ever heard one. That's the first thing you would look at. Why do you walk into an ambush? Only if you can set your own ambush. Only if you have a plan to escape it. You don't go in there and just take the punishment. And that's what happened. And that's why I'm saying he lost. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It didn't move anybody. It's just a missed opportunity. And it is. It's a missed opportunity. Here, he also attacked the position, he being Donald Trump, he went after the crazy position that Kamala Harris has on transgenderism and transgender surgeries and those of us who should have to pay for it, which should be none of us. Shouldn't even be happening. Here she is talking to what looks like a woman but sounds like a man at a transgender conference, and she's proud of it. This woman is fine with her record right up until she runs away with it. That's why we played you the clip from Bernie Sanders the other day. It used to be very common that politicians would do one thing in the primary, say one thing, and then tack back towards the middle and try to soften their positions to try to win over the independents. Kamala's doing it. The difference is we have the internet now, and everybody, not just like some groups have the ability to go back and pull old footage. Everybody can go do it. You can go do it. You can go look through your Facebook feed, and you'll find that there are organizations that are dedicated to pulling up your craziness, and I'm fairly good at finding it now too. And here's a little bit of it. This is an extreme position on transgender surgeries, that American taxpayers should pay it so that men who sometimes are sexual assault perpetrators can be in prisons with women so they have a captive victim population. How can you be pro-woman and be into this? It's because they're loonies on the left and their ideas don't even line with their own ideas. I remember hearing for years that there was a war on women by the Republican Party. And as an independent looking out at it, I went like, doesn't seem like it. Seems like Republicans want to like have women in a place that's safe and doing a thing that women can do that men can't. Call me crazy. But there's a lot of younger women right now, that Gen Z sort of era, that are looking out and going, how did we get screwed over by this second and third wave feminist garbage? Because wouldn't it be nice if we could go to school, get out of high school, maybe go to college, take your pick, meet a nice man, and then him like have the expectation of providing for my life? Wasn't that sort of the thing? It might have been a dream. It didn't happen for everybody, but it seems like a pretty good deal. Like everybody gets to do the thing that they're best at. And if you're best at things like caring and nurturing and loving, my wife like is constantly tinkering in the kitchen, like building things, making stuff, like slapping around dough. And it's like, okay, like I don't want to do that, but like it seems really interesting to her. And I know it is because she watches programs on it. She listens to other women talk about it. Like that's where she has her interest. If it's me, I'm building guns. I'm going out into the world. I want to hunt down things. I want to find bad guys. We all have different talents and suits. It's strange to try to shove men into women's prisons and pay for surgeries so that they can go and abuse women. That's Kamala Harris's position. Trump was right about it. He just didn't land it because the audience was bad and he was in a bad environment.
That they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving. So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need. And I believe it was not only, I know it was historic in California, but I believe actually it may have been one of the first, if not the first in the country, where I pushed for that policy in a Department of Corrections, that they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
I just wanted to hear the guy's voice one more time. They were standing in the way of surgery. And he's like, for prisoners. Dressed up like a 6 foot tall lady. Kamala Harris is 5'4". She's sitting there. That dude is like a head taller. And of course, the background says all kinds of things about transgenderism or whatever it is, the transition project or something. So there you go. There's plenty of evidence. Somebody actually showed up some evidence of her like dancing and partying. Imagine, she brought it up on her own, but imagine if Donald Trump also added to his little short monologue of 90 seconds. This woman's been endorsed by Vladimir Putin, Liz and Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney endorsed this person. I think people on the right and the left are both appalled by a Dick Cheney. It's a winner. It's a walkout. The reason why I don't think Americans actually have the attention span to handle this kind of stuff, like the people who are gettable voters, the people who are deciding whether or not to get off the couch and actually vote or not vote, they're not that bright people. I give a lot of credibility to the audience that listens to this podcast because I know that I speak quickly and I move through a lot of topics and I cover a lot of material quickly because I trust that you're going to figure it out. Because I just think I treat my kids this way too. It's the same. It's like I just treat people like people. I don't talk to them like kindergartners, and I don't try to spoon feed them the same thing over and over again. Some people need to be here, repetition. That's their game. It's not for me. If you want to hear it again, just hit rewind. You can knock yourself out. There are a lot of people that don't have the ability to grasp information. I'm going to play you one of those people right at the end of this. If you guys want to support the program, again, you can go to mypillow.com/Kyle. So you can use our promo code over at Mike Lindell's website. It's mypillow.com/Kyle. They were doing a blowout on mattresses. A lot of people don't know they've got other products beyond just the sheets and the pillows. You know that I'm not a lover of the pillows. My folks sleep on the sheets though, and they love them. And some of my buddies who talk about it, they're like, they're my favorite sheets in the world. That's pretty cool. They also like the slippers. You can get the slippers. They make all kinds of stuff. If you guys are interested in checking out the website, go to the website, go look for it there. You're shopping with a company that basically loves America the way that you do. We don't have to agree on everything. I think some of the ways he's attacked things, kind of like Trump, inartful. Mike Lindell doing the best he can with what he's got. Our promo code works over there. It'll save you the same money as anybody else. KYLE is the promo code over at mypillow.com/Kyle. That's where you'll see all the specials. You ready for a little video? This lady's retarded. And I don't mean that she's mentally incapable. I mean, she's approximating a retard. That's what she's doing. It's retardation appropriation. We say this all the time. This is craziness. Listen to the jumbled garbage. You think this woman's not going to vote for Kamala? She needs simple messages in 60 seconds or less that are using words that are not too complicated for her and don't refer to knowledge she should already have in her head. This is a CNN interview focus group after the moment. Take a deep breath, because this is about as dumb as it gets.
I didn't necessarily agree with what she was saying, but my favorable reactions were because it was nice to see the passion and believability that she stands behind, and then have something to gauge more of what she says on, since she hasn't spoken a lot solidly about a lot of issues.
And I think what's been interesting...
Huh? Did that mean anything to you guys? Because I'm actually going to play it a second time, only because that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. She didn't care about what she was saying, but like the feelings that she had while she was thinking about them made me feel better about the fact that one day she might actually have something. I don't think that's actually a man. All of you guys in the chat that are calling her a man. Listen, the transgender movement has been the worst thing for homely women in the history of this country, for sure, because we're always now looking for Adam's apples when we see unattractive women, and it's not their fault. I think this is an actual woman. I can't prove it, but it's not right. Listen, this is a voter that is gettable, I think, because this voter is basically a human goldfish. There's nothing between the ears. There is zero sensation, just a complete confused mess of looking for direction. Give her a TikTok and walk off the stage. Don't hit her with complicated ideas and things about migrants and illegal immigration. Just let her know that she needs to consider, is she better off financially now? Is bacon too expensive for her to buy every single week versus the last time she went to the grocery store in 2020, in 2019? That's it. Here she is.
I didn't necessarily agree with what she was saying, but my favorable reactions were because it was nice to see the passion and believability that she stands behind.
The passion and the believability that she stands behind, those don't mean anything. None of that means anything. Those are all nonsense. And I feel for her. And also, I don't see an Adam's apple, for whatever it's worth. So if you're just listening and you're like, oh, I better go check this out, I don't think there's an Adam's apple. Couple little other things. Gotta love this. We're now in an era when we don't believe the government, do we? Like, not by default. All of you who lived through 2020, you heard some things being said and you went like, nope, I don't think so. How about during 2021 when the Biden administration was telling you to go do things that don't make a lot of sense? Like, hey, go get the shot because we said so, even though you already got the disease and you already recovered from it. By the way, you need to give it to your toddlers. You need to give it to your infants between 3 and 6 months old, even though it's not even approved for them, even though they don't get sick and there's no instances of them getting hurt. It's a statistically irrelevant number. That's kind of why we don't believe the government. So when Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, you know who knows everything that goes on in the state? The governor, right? Of course, I'm being facetious. No, the governor doesn't know anything about what's going on. How does he live in Springfield? Does he spend time in Springfield? How about the guy that has a YouTube channel that handles automobiles? That guy, I want to hear what he has to say. He seems like just a regular dude. How about the TikTok guy, the black guy that went up and spoke in front of the city council talking? I want to hear what he has to say. Instead, Mike DeWine says, look, it was a fake immigrant story. The internet can be quite a crazy place. The internet can also be full of a lot of factual information if you know how to vet it, which is what we try to do here. Absolute weak sauce from Mike DeWine. Same reason why I don't believe the mayor. They have a vested interest in not hearing that, because why? They signed off on the policies that let all these people come in. They're the ones that are not doing anything about it. They're the one, as we talked about yesterday, that are not taking the 10th Amendment at its word and keeping the federal government out of the business of their citizens. They're more than happy to take federal money because it's convenient and it's easy and it's the status quo. And I'm grossed out. I don't care whether it has an R or a D after your name. That's what most of us learned in the last 5 or 6 years. Maybe you believed it beforehand, but man, we've had some pretty proof positive examples come out. These folks cannot help themselves. And if you think that we're not going to see election interference, and if you think that we're not going to have a movement, I'm telling you, the DOJ has already weighed in. And we're going to see a little clip or a little story from Merrick Garland. Before we finish that, this is where I'm going to end with on the debate stuff, because I just think it's worth it. They spent 90 minutes talking to us about nothing. Kamala Harris clearly won the debate. This is the New York Post. They lean right, folks, over Donald Trump, but the VP got no bump in the polls because her performance was crap too. I did a poll and it said, who lost? Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, America, or anybody who watched it? And the overwhelming answer was America or anyone who watched it. Because we all lost. We all lost 90 minutes of sleep that we could have gotten, and it would have been better. I couldn't comment on it, and that's kind of what I do right now. So I watched it for you. I'm just telling you. It wasn't good on her end either. I'm not saying that she's great. I'm saying she's awful. I'm just saying that the guy, we all lost out on that because it was an opportunity to pick up some voters. The one thing that we did prove, though, and this is quite funny, who is this coming from? I think it's from ABC. Let me just look which one of these, what silly news organizations did it. Yeah, it's from ABC News. The presidential debate proved that climate change is not at the center of the 2024 elections, experts say. It's not a standalone issue. That's borderline hysterical, is it not? Can we not just laugh about that? Because it even when we were doing the live coverage, I looked it up as we were doing the live stream. And what we found out is like it's the lowest rated thing. The least number of people are interested in climate change when the vote comes down. The biggest number of people are interested in the economy, which goes back to my original point. That's all he should have hammered. Hammer it, hammer it, hammer it. He's still got time to do this, by the way, folks. This is not like a lost cause. This is not me like throwing the towel in. I'm just saying that debate sucked, and Donald Trump should just hammer the economy from here on out. The rest of it doesn't matter. Every question should pivot back to the economy. And if he needs help doing that, he can reach out to us. Me and Steve Friend. Steve Friend will go out there and hang out with him at Mar-a-Lago and train him up on it. It's super easy to spin this stuff. Every single thing that goes on can go back to the economy. The border, it's the economy. Healthcare costs goes back to the economy. Migrants coming in, the economy. It's putting downward pressure on people who have the least amount of money. Abortion, the economy. The world stage, the economy. A strong America equals a strong America, period. And it comes down to the economy. And the border is the other piece of it. Isn't it interesting that when we talked to Jeremy Ryan Slate yesterday, the thing that he honed in on was a currency, a sovereign currency that was not debased, and a border that you can recognize. That means you have to be able to tell us from them, and us from them is a real thing, and it's always been a real thing. Go back to the Old Testament. It was us and them. It just wasn't us. It was the Israelites. But they were God's people and they were not God's people. And the rules that the Israelites followed, they didn't apply to the not Israelites. The 10 Commandments weren't like treat everybody like this. That's the brilliance of the New Testament. The Old Testament told us one thing. There's us and there's them. And there's some real Old Testament stuff going on in this world right now when they're sacrificing children and they're killing off people and cutting off their genitals and doing all this other sort of demonic action. And I don't use that word lightly. I do think we are in a legit spiritual battle. Especially when you got that lady out there trying to tell you it's for healthcare. A couple little quick things I want to touch on before we shut this thing down and go on to Friendly Friday. And by the way, I'll remind you one more time, locals, yep, you can go on to KyleSerafin.com, sign up for the locals, and you can be part of our call-in show tonight, which will be good. I've got George Hill. You guys want to get down the rabbit hole with him, a man who spent 26 years in the intelligence community, worked for the NSA, worked for the Navy, worked for the Marine Corps, worked for the FBI, retired out of there. We'll have a nice dark, after dark chat with George, and I'll post the time up shortly. I think we're going to try to do 8 p.m. Eastern time. We want to move a little bit further. George is not the youngest man in the world, and he's got a bedtime, so we want to make sure that he's optimal. 8 p.m. Eastern time is the time that we're planning on doing the call-in show. This is a little thing that came in. I only put it on here because it's kind of funny. It's NBC News, so left-leaning, of course, how Lauren Chen went from alt-light YouTuber to alleged Russian asset. The reason why this is funny is because all the people that the political left would hem and haw and cry about and say that nobody should ever platform these people and no one should ever hear from them again and they're, excommunicated from polite society, they're the people they went to get quotes on it. Do you know who they quoted in this article? It's from somebody called Brandy Zadronzi. I don't know. Says Lauren Chen brings people together, blah, 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 blah. But then she was named in the indictment as founder one of Tenet Media, which got nearly $10 million from this Russian covert propaganda campaign. This is Tenet Media. This is the whole story that's going on. Russia Today. It's all in there. Do you know who they quoted to go after Lauren Chen? Milo Yiannopoulos. They quoted Milo Yiannopoulos and Richard Spencer. They dug all the way into the alt-right movement of 2017, which, by the way, has a parallel because Donald Trump was talking about that, and they trotted out that BS lie about how he said there were good people on both sides. Then the next thing he said was, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the anti-Semites and the people that are bad. I'm talking about the people that showed up to protest the First Amendment and saying that our history actually matters. I'm paraphrasing, of course. The propagandists are more than happy to go and quote Milo Yiannopoulos and Richard Spencer, both of whom I had briefs on while I worked for the FBI in 2017 in the Washington field office right down the street from where Donald Trump was when I worked for the Bureau. And it was in a counterterrorism setting, talking about domestic extremism. Those people are now being quoted by NBC, the people who said that these were basically untouchable. And that tells me that these people are willing to go all the way, all the time. They have absolutely no scruples. There was a video of an FBI quote-unquote profiler. He was an FBI agent, someone called Navarro. I think his name is Joseph Navarro. I watched his analysis. It's like a teenager could do it. And if that's what the BAU was putting out, I didn't have to deal with the BAU very often. But Steve Friend did, and we don't have a lot of respect for the so-called FBI profiler role because it's nonsense. In any case, that was the thing. FBI agents weighing in, talking about how strong Kamala was, that she went over and shook his hand. No, she was a freaking weirdo, guys. Here's the last little piece here that I've got as a story. And I'm going to see if I actually put a clip of it up or not. I may not have. I don't have a screenshot of it, so I'll just go to full cam here. Garland vows the DOJ will not be used as a political weapon. And that, to me, is about the silliest thing that you'll ever hear. There's escalating rhetoric. Okay, but it comes from Donald Trump. This is ABC talking about it, threatening to prosecute his former enemies. Merrick Garland said that they are not going to use it as a weaponized force, even though they're already using it for a weaponized force. My favorite is that this is a prepared remark, that they leaked the remarks before he even gave them as he addresses the people within the DOJ. So they're giving DOJ internal speeches out, like those like BS, like, DOJ all, FBI all emails that come out, the ones you get at your work that are like from the CEO that are signed like, Bob or like Martin. And it's like not a person that you've ever met personally. That's kind of garbage is coming out from Merrick Garland. He says, our norms are a promise that we will, he says it like a crying old woman, so I can't do that. Our norms are like a promise that we will fiercely protect the independence of this department from political interference in our criminal investigations, according to excerpts from his prepared remarks that were provided to reporters. This is a messaging campaign that ABC News and all the others are happy to go out there and carry out. It's the same reason why we're seeing nothing but the likelihood of election interference, because they're covering down on this BS story that the Republicans are trying to suppress the vote. And that's where they're putting their information. What they're not willing to do, what they have no interest in doing, they don't want to make sure that the vote is free, fair, and without fraud. They have zero interest in doing it. They've already told us that. The Civil Rights Division has doubled down on saying they want to make sure that all the black people and all the illegal aliens at least have the fair right to vote if they might be able to vote in the place that they're allowed to vote. Garbage. DOJ is politicized, and we know that simply by looking at the FACE Act. It's so clear. It's cut and dry. It's 95% to 5% prosecutions of conservative Christians and not of people that are out there vandalizing churches and destroying stuff. It's the Christians that are praying outside of abortion clinics. The jury is already back on this stuff. The statistics are in, and it is overwhelming that the DOJ has been politicized and weaponized. So it doesn't matter what Merrick Garland says, which is another reason why I don't care what certain politicians say about whether or not they were pets being eaten. I don't trust these people, and neither should you. All right. I've got a little fun for you. If you guys want to get one of the shirts that we're running right now, you can see I'm running, I think this is the hashtag shirt. It's got the white badge on the front. Support my buddy Garrett O'Boyle and his family over at the-suspendables.com. You can also find them on the local store. If you go through locals, you can actually click through. I think if you click one of the pictures, it'll magically transport you to the-suspendables.com. My name is a promo code will save you 10%. That's just a little thank you for showing up there and clicking through from our program, the-suspendables.com. Stick around for this palate cleanser because you guys will get a kick out of this since everything is racist right now. Let's do the 5-star review we've got. This is coming from JD Skintitin. Hard to say how to say that one. Humor is unmatched 5 stars. I've absolutely loved your takes on the DNC this week. Your sense of humor aligns with mine, and I catch myself actually laughing out loud while I listen. Well, shame on you. You sound like a crazy person. Don't be laughing aloud to the podcast while you're alone. I do the same thing, so I appreciate it. You've officially made it to the top of my daily listens, outpacing someone who shall remain nameless and that has been doing this for a lot longer. Love the show, love the humor, love the content. Thanks, JD. Appreciate the 5-star review. Let's do a little bit of that weird sense of humor I have. Do you know who I used to miss, or I do miss right now, and I used to love, was Daniel Tosh. He had a show called Tosh.0. Maybe it's because he reminds me of my younger brother. My youngest brother has this bizarre sense of humor, just like this. Here is your palate cleanse about racism. These are made-up words. And if you're on the loony left, like I said, these are ungettable voters, then they sound racist to you. We used to be able to do fun humor in this country. Enjoy.
I would like you just to raise your hand whenever you feel the term I use is offensive. Cream jockey. Okay. Water flaps. Here comes a pack of water flaps. Lock up your dogs.
Uh-oh, no, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Okay. Sugar taster.
That's a little offensive.
What do you think sugar taster means?
I don't know. I don't know why you think that he tastes sugar.
Why do you keep pointing to the black person?
That's what I want. They?
Saddle shins.
Saddle shin, what that mean?
bunch of stinking saddle shins.
Using sentence.
I just did.
That was sentence?
Yes. Clink clunk.
Clink clunk.
Clink clunk.
Hey, we did the railroad and we did all that work, and then you come back to use this kind of term?
Okay, it is not directed toward anyone. It's just the word clink clunk.
Well, I don't like it.
Sounds kind of offensive.
Okay. This is all good research, guys. Thank you. Biscuit neck. God help us if we ever have a biscuit neck in the White House. Why did biscuit neck offend you?
I don't know. You shouldn't say that.
You shouldn't say biscuit neck. You guys are...
I thought it was something against whites.
You thought biscuit neck was negative toward whites.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Spoon face.
I don't like that. Why? Because lots of Asians got round face and they might think you're talking about them.
Right, but I think of a spoon, I think of concave. I think it's an Asian slam, huh? Spoon face?
Yeah, because...
Spoon face? Apple picker. Why are you offended by apple picker?
Because no one called me an apple picker.
What if you were to pick an apple?
I'm still not an apple picker.
Let me find one that you are okay. Which one can I call you? Hinto?
No.
Water flaps?
No.
Chinbird?
No.
Bucket ducker?
No.
Dirty legs?
Nah.
What about door donkey?
Hell no.
You fine with tan eyes?
To a degree.
No, tan eyes it is. Well, thank you all for your time. You can collect your $10 on your way out.
I don't even know. I like tan eyes didn't offend the guy, but biscuit neck offended him and they thought it was a slur against whites. Maybe the best part is that there's a Latino guy in there who looks like he works on like a landscaping crew, and he's the only one that doesn't raise his hand for anything. He's not offended by anything, maybe because he has an actual job. The rest of these people are living in fantasy world. But we used to be a proper country, used to be able to say all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And now door donkey is offensive. I don't know what any of that stuff means, but anyway, I enjoyed it. That's my twisted sense of humor for you all. Thanks for joining us today. I do really appreciate it. God bless you. Thanks for listening to my rants. I mean that. I hope that it actually changes your mind just a little bit. I just want you to think outside the box. You can still think Donald Trump won, and you're not going to not be my friend because of that. We're not going to be enemies because we don't have the same opinion in this country. We should always try to expand our minds, and I gave you some reasons why I think what I think. If they don't land with you, that's okay. If they do, share it. Like it, subscribe it, join over on Locals. It's always a segue. Folks, we'll see you again tonight at 8 Eastern. That's 7 Central. We'll have George Hill, former NSA, former FBI, supervisory intelligence analyst, fantastic guest. We're going to get into weird stuff. If you guys want to leave us a message because you are not interested in talking to us out loud, you can leave us a message. You got to be a subscriber, and it's the pinned tweet right now with the phone number. Go ahead and leave us some messages, and we'll play them to get started off. Look forward to seeing you guys in a couple hours. All right. Until then, or we'll see you on Friendly Friday. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.